Good to see you, JC.
My brother, good to see you again, David.
Back in Houston, and now in my own car, and we're off to lunch, but we're gonna...
And a really nice omen for you. Well, first of all, Cybercab trying to pull in right behind. We got a Cybercab that's right behind us trying to pull in, but in front of us we have, looks like a light pole that, did that get hit by lightning?
I don't know.
I mean, welcome to Houston.
Yeah. So we're full day of robotaxi and see what we can see. Or I guess right now it's shut off apparently because of the rain.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah, so the great thing for me is I am in the famous Tesla Model 3 of David Moss. Look at that streak. Good Lord, 13,747.5 miles. Wow. So you'll be proud of me. I am up to 400 miles.
Wow.
Now, part of that's because I haven't been doing, like when I started doing the trade, and I promise I won't go off on that.
No.
When I started,
take the show every day.
Yeah, I've been really like knee deep focused on that here, which it deserves. Like in the first 5 to 6 weeks, I really kind of needed to hone in on that.
Is it just SpaceX stock or Tesla too?
It's a number of things. So I've got some kind of, I guess you would call it intermediate stuff on SpaceX and Tesla. That's, when I say intermediate, it's all in the options market, which, oh, by the way,
so what is an option for people that don't know?
So an option is a derivative off a stock. So instead of just buying a share of stock outright, you can use options. It's basically a derivative product that gives you leverage. And so pretty much every public company, I shouldn't say every, I'm sure there's some that aren't, but most public companies, there are options that you can trade on those shares. So like Tesla has options, SpaceX has options, NVIDIA, Microsoft, AMD, all of the, and so where it gives you that leverage is every single option is basically like 100 shares of stock. So when you buy or sell an option, you're in essence controlling 100 shares. So however the price of the movement of 100 shares of the stock would go, the option is generally going to follow in that same path. Now that being said, there's some other things about an option like time value, because they're dated instrument. Whereas when you buy a share of stock, that share is forever until the company, does something, merges or goes away or whatever. So
you're kind of taking a
risk.
An educated guess on what it's going to be and how long are those contracts? Can that be any amount you want?
Yeah. Well, you said educated guess. Sometimes not so educated, but most of the time a guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, what you're doing is, and it depends on which stock you're doing it on too, for yourself personally, but what you're doing is, yes, if you buy or sell, depending on which side of the option you're on, you are making, and I'll be nice with my words here, an informed prognostication about what you think that underlying stock is going to do over a certain amount of time. So like, you can buy options for any expiration. So there are things called 0 days to expiration. Like, you can literally buy an option that expires at 3 p.m. that same day. Or you can buy very, very long dated options. Like, in fact, a lot of people in the Tesla community that have a lot of shares, one of the ways that they get their income, like they may have, let's say you were a Tesla investor since, you've been in a Tesla investor for 10 years. Well, if you've been in the Tesla community for 10 years, you've had 2 out of those 3 run-ups that I told you.
Yeah.
So in the whole history of Tesla, there's been I think it's been 3 big run-ups. Well, if you've been around for a decade, you enjoy 2 of those. So a lot of those folks have retired, and what they do, a lot of them, as part of their retirement income, is they write covered calls on those shares. So let's say what
does that mean?
So let's say you've got 10,000 shares of Tesla that you've accumulated over time. What you can do is, if if you're long-term bullish on Tesla, obviously you own the underlying stock. But let's say you don't believe Tesla, you want Tesla to go up. You know, it's around 400, although today was not a great day, but we'll just forget what happened today. Let's just say Tesla's around the 400 range. Well, you obviously want Tesla to go up, but you don't believe there's any way it's going to go like 600 to 800 by the end of the year. So there are some folks in the Tesla community that will go out to the end of the year, let's say November or December, and they will sell calls on their own shares. That's why they're called covered, because you're covering them with your own shares. And they'll sell, in fact, a couple of those people are on our spaces, most of the, you know. So
Xander and Sat.
Well, Xander's a little more active. That Sat, that's basically his entire, I shouldn't say entire, and I don't want to speak for Sat, but yeah. I know he's publicly said he writes long-dated, very high-priced covered calls. In fact, I think specifically for Sat, he has written $800 calls on Tesla out at the end of the year. So he's obviously very long-term bullish Tesla, but even in the best case scenario, he doesn't believe Tesla's going to get to 800.
So what happens at the end of the year if it doesn't get to 800? And what happens if it does?
Those options expire worthless, and Sat keeps all that premium income. So think about it this way. When you write those covered calls, so when somebody says they wrote an option, all that means is you're the seller of it. So there's a buyer and a seller. So you are willing to use your shares as the underlying to go out and sell calls on that. So let's say Sat went out and looked at the option chain, and an $800 call is generally, you're not going to get a lot of premium out of that, but if you go out far enough, you will. So and that premium income is going to be enough for him to live off of. But he is making a bet. He is making a bet that Tesla is going to do well this year, but that it's not going to do so well that it gets to 800. So there are a lot of bulls that'll do that. But
so what happens if it does hit 800, or what's kind of the worst case scenario?
The worst case scenario for, well, I mean, there's a couple of worst case scenarios for that individual. The worst case scenario is that Tesla goes to like 200 by the end of the year. Granted, their options expired worthless, you know, but if Tesla's really hurting at the time that their options is, well, they need to write more options in order to keep their income going. Well, now, if you were to write $800 options for the next 6 months, the value of those just went dramatically down. So now, in order to keep your same lifestyle, you probably got to write $400 to $600 right? You see where I'm going with that? So that's one of the that may be one of the worst case scenarios. There is that we get to the end of the year and everything we think that's going to happen for Tesla, none of it happens. Robotaxi just gets mired in the mud, and here we are.
Kills a couple people or whatever.
Well, that may, I won't go that far. But yeah, well, let's just say that instead of us, like right now, what would you say? We probably got about, 10 in Houston, 10 robotaxis in Houston, 10 in Dallas, 20 to 30 in Austin. Let's say we're still mired in a total of 50 to 100 robotaxis by the end of the year. Well, that stock ain't going anywhere. And let's say that just Optimus is like delayed after delay. So to Wall Street, we're just still stuck at like, guys, you keep telling us that we need to re-rate Tesla and revalue Tesla, but we're still at 50 robotaxis driving. That would be a bad case scenario, because those covered calls that you're going to want to write at the end of the year are going to be low.
Loses his shares, or he has to pay a big penalty?
No, so that's a different scenario. So here's like the best. It's the best scenario for somebody who's very long-term. Let's say Tesla just turns on the spigot. I mean, we're sitting here, and then all of a sudden at the end of July, August, September, maybe like sometime before the X takeover, they just put, we're at 10,000 plus robo-taxis in the network by the end of the year. Bunch of cyber cabs, service is going great. Well, you know what? Look at when Tesla's done a run up before, David. I mean, when it runs, buddy, it runs. Like, it can be stagnant, and in fact, that is the story of Tesla, is that it goes sideways for 5 to 6 years, and then when it runs, good God almighty does it run. And I mean, it will leave the station without you, and you'll be gone. And in fact, it's, I know I'm sounding like overly dramatic.
I don't think
and
you
I'm
are.
not being overly dramatic. I'm probably not emphasizing enough what happens when Tesla runs. So that would be another scenario, is let's say that it just does so well, we're at $1,000 by the end of the year. Well, the guy that wrote all those covered calls on his shares get called away. Now, it's not a terrible scenario, because he's obviously going to make a huge gain, right? Because that guy who's writing those calls, his cost basis in Tesla is probably below $100 a share. So if you've got, $80 cost basis shares in Tesla, and you got to sell them at 1,000, well, you just 10x'd, right? But you've just given up Optimus. Right? You've given up really all the upside to rope. So it is a dangerous game. And so these guys that sell covered calls.
Is that what appeals it to you, or you like?
Well, no, I actually don't do covered calls. Yeah, I do something different. So that's one of the games right there. I don't know if it necessarily appeals to those guys. So I am not a covered call seller. I would say the folks in the Tesla community that do options trading, that's the vast majority. Is the folks that are writing covered calls. So like Sat is one of those guys. And you know what? You can't argue with it, because Sat was, first of all, he was smart enough to, he came in with Elon and Tesla way before any of us, right? Yeah. Back in the 2012, 2013 timeframe. So he's been through it all. Right? So his cost basis may even be down in the single digits, right? So that guy definitely doesn't want his shares called away, right? But it's a method for somebody like that who is so forward thinking to not have to have a 9 to 5. He can literally live off of option money. But that's his biggest risk. So me personally, I don't do covered calls. Now, that being said, here I am. That is not something to say like, I would never do good. No, well, let's just be blunt. I've been through one run up. Somebody like Sat's been through all of them. I want to say there's been 3 big run ups. Don't hold me to that. I have to go back and look at the chart, but I think it's been 3. Well, however many there are, Sat's been through all of them, right? So I'm just not at the same place as Sat. Like, Sat's cost basis is in the single digits. My cost basis is that it's a good cost basis, but I'm still in the triple digits. I'm in the hundreds on mine. So I just don't have that. I'm not in the same place Sat would be. I didn't come to the community as soon as he did. So what I do is, my main thing is I'm a buy and hold guy. So I would say that where I'm at right now is 80. I'd say I'm at a place where 80% of my portfolio is just buy and hold Tesla. Like, I've accumulated Tesla shares over the years, and then when I retired 2 years ago, I took most of what I was a partner at KPMG, so you know how that works. You have a capital account, and you're invested in the firm, and that did very well by me. But when you retire, you get all that back. You're obviously not going to be a partner there anymore. And so I took all of that at that point in time, and I put it all into Tesla. So I'm an all-in Tesla guy. But what I did right around, I would say, the first quarter of this year, David, is when there started to be scuttlebutt about SpaceX going public, I was look, I love Tesla. I'm fine just being all in Tesla the rest of my life. But I know that SpaceX is, when it comes to the next 10, 20, 30 years. Well, first of all, I know that Tesla's going to be part of SpaceX at some point.
Yeah.
But let's take that off the table. I just want to be part of that. Like what they're going to be doing to expand consciousness, to expand.
Just XAI and Starlink alone take the rockets out of it.
Exactly. You just take the rocket, just the data centers. And, you know, let's just don't take the rocket and just say orbital data centers. Well, you got to have the rocket for that. But you see where I'm going. Like, you don't even have to go to the moon. You don't even have to get back to the moon or go to Mars to have orbital data centers. You stop right there and you have a transcendent company. So I wanted to participate in that. The problem is that I don't keep a lot of dry powder around. So starting at the beginning of the year, I started keeping some dry powder back. So I was
dry powder cash.
Yes. Okay. So what I've normally done, David, is all of my Uber earnings, all of it, 100%, I would just put into Tesla stock. So as soon as, let's say, again, Tesla has been oscillating between $200 to $400, and on a good Uber night back when I was doing it full time, you know, I was making $200 to $300 on a weekend night, and on a weekend night you can make $300 to $400. So basically, I was buying a share. Yeah, I was basically buying a share and a half every night. And then as a retired KPMG partner, I get what you would call, you know, it wasn't just the capital I had in the firm, but you have like retirement account, like they have a retirement thing. So I get that as well. And so I started holding some of that back. So basically, I started holding back some cash that I would have put into Tesla back in the first quarter. Like that's what I will tell you is I have not bought a share of Tesla since the first quarter of this year.
Wow.
I haven't sold a share, but I haven't bought any more shares. And so I wanted to use that to participate in the IPO if it were going to happen. And so lo and behold, it became a reality. And but unfortunately for me, David, the two big banks that I've been with for years, one of them has been like my main bank, JP Morgan. So like I've done everything with them. I've got my checking and savings, and I got an IRA with them now, like since I retired. I've got a lot of stuff with them. And then Wells Fargo, I have another IRA with them. Well, I just wasn't big enough for them to participate. Like, so what I found in this whole SpaceX IPO process is the big banks just, you had to be like literally not to get into the, but you got to be out there for them to have allotted me shares. Like, so they gave me no allotment, and they were both participating in the IPO. But I just wasn't big enough for them. So then I went to Robinhood and I put some money with Robinhood just to see if I could, and I did. I got one share with Robinhood. Well, I decided that since I only was able to get one share, so technically I wasn't able to participate other than getting one share of IPO SpaceX, was that come hell or high water, I was going to participate in SpaceX. And I knew getting into it, it was going to be volatile as hell, and it has been. I mean, we're talking about a stock that was 135 IPO, went all the way up to 220, and it damn near got back to its IPO price today. So that's where it's. But what I decided to do was use the options market to help me basically participate without actually physically buying shares. So I have not yet physically bought a share of SpaceX, but I've used the options market to basically opportunistically build up a cost basis there. And what I mean by that is I'm employing the wheel strategy. So the wheel strategy is where if there is a company that you really, really love, and you ultimately want to own shares in that company, but you'd like to do it, you'd like to leverage, instead of just going out and buying 600 shares of a company, I'd like to use the options market to maybe get me to a point where I can own 2 times as many shares a few years from now, 5 times as many shares.
Yeah.
Hell, maybe 10x. Well, I can't do that by owning the shares, but the options market can give you the ability to do that, especially if it's really volatile. Well, SpaceX is extremely volatile. So there's an upside and a downside to volatility. The downside is like what you saw today. It damn near went back to the IPO price. So there, just pure long stock, it looks bad. But the upside is the option premium on this stock is just through the roof. And so it's created this kind of, I'm going to use a highfalutin word for myself, this asymmetric relationship between the options chain and the underlying stock, in where you actually get, if you sell premium in this market, you actually get more selling the premium than the increase or decrease in the stock. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Yeah. It's so I'm a premium seller. So I'm selling puts. So when you sell a put, you're basically saying, let's say I sell a put at 155 on SpaceX.
Yeah.
And it's 45 days out. I'm giving the put buyer the right to put to me SpaceX shares at 155 today. But because the options premiums are so big, he's paying me a lot of money to do that. If I use certain opportunity, like let's say there's a rise in the stock, just for one day it just hits up $10. Well, with a company like SpaceX, on those days where it pops like $5 or $10, the options market goes crazy. And so I can go in there and I can roll that same option to say a week or 2 out. And in some cases, I've been paid like $10,000 to $15,000 to do that, just to roll it out another week or 2. And the only reason is because it's so damn volatile. I'll be the first to admit, it's a dangerous game.
Yeah.
Like I want to first and foremost say, I'm only playing with, like, if I were to look at my portfolio in total, like I said, this is like 20% of my portfolio, and I get it. This is not something like these credit spreads that I'm doing. You've got to absolutely not just love the company that you're doing this with, but be convinced that where they're going to be at. Hey, Cybercab, and no, it's got somebody in it. They were kind of seated back. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing. Sorry, man, I've gone long-winded on this.
I was hoping to hear about it, so
yeah.
do not apologize. I'm trying to get you to talk about it.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Well, I'll talk about it. So that's my SpaceX. I'm kind of doing the same thing on Tesla. That didn't do so well today either.
So what's your worst case scenario?
My worst case scenario is SpaceX goes to $50, or SpaceX is, well, the worst case scenario is SpaceX runs into, like, obviously a bankruptcy would be the worst.
Yeah.
But that's going to be the worst case for a lot of people, not just me. I'll just be in line with people on that. But like a reality worst case scenario for me,
yeah,
the reality worst case is SpaceX goes to $85 and there's no volatility. So like, even if SpaceX goes to say 85 to 100, but there's a lot of volatility, I'm actually, again, this is it gets into some of the Greeks. Have you heard of the Greeks?
No.
So like every option has basically 4 main Greeks, and one of them is like IV, like volatility, Vega. And as long as that is really, really high, you can actually roll the option out and continue to decrease your effective price. Because remember when I said like the volatility is asymmetric to the actual change in the stock price.
Yeah.
So it's this weird thing where even if the stock goes down, or obviously if it pops up, that's a better scenario. I can take that 45-day option and roll it out another week or two and get enough, there's enough, like that option value has gone up so much that the delta between the old option I sold and the one that, you know, that I'm going to buy back and sell here, that delta is more than the actual change in the stock price, the underlying, right?
So if it would drop to 80, like you're saying in that one scenario,
I'd be a bag holder.
Yeah, so you, yeah, that's what
I could keep rolling it out.
So you'd basically like own something that was worth 80 that you paid 150 for? Or?
Well, I would it right now. If it dropped to 80 today, yes, that would be in the situation I'm in. Now that never happened. Like
so you wouldn't be like screwed, but you'd. I mean, if you believed in the long term, like you basically paid double for it, but I mean, eventually you could make your money back. Like you're not.
Right. Well, and you would still be making your money because I wouldn't sit still.
Yeah.
Like once you start this process, remember how, well, no, you weren't on the space today, but Omar made a great statement that once you start advertising, like, you know, obviously Tesla is famous for not advertising. And so we had a discussion today about, well, should Tesla advertise or not? And one of the things Omar reminded us about, which is a good reminder, is once you go down that road, you're done. You're in it. Like you can't just advertise and then stop. You got to keep going. Well, once you enter into put credit spreads, buddy, you're in there. So what I mean by that is like I would continue to roll, and you would during that rolling process, you're going to continue to, you know, obviously want to do that at a net credit, and so you would continue to bring your price down. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be down as far as like where the stock price is. All right, so we got the handicap spot. So what are you going to do here? You're going to...
We're going to just re-put it in the...
Yeah, try another pin. Did really good in the rain. We didn't even talk about the damn drive, and look how good it is.
So the only thing I noticed on the drive was at one point it when it was taking a turn, it like kind of changed lanes in the intersection when it was taking a like a left turn where it ended up in another lane, which a lot of human people do.
Yeah, I was so busy jaw jacking and listening to my own voice. It felt like just a good ride to me. Yeah, I forgot this is a brand new version too. Here I am experiencing brand new version, and I'm talking about me losing my house with options.
But on there, I don't know if you saw my video, but it did some crazy parking.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, the one from early this morning. First of all, kudos to you, dude. Like, you get a version and you're out there at like 4 in the morning. Holy, bro. That's dedicated. Like, you know what? When I saw your video, I'm like, you know what? That's early access right there. Like, you know what? I'm good second, third wave. I was like, that reminded me, like, hey, all these guys that are like, oh, why do I? Like, all right, well, David Moss uploaded a video at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, like immediately. And then these other guys, like, you know, Omar and Zach, they'll get out there at 2 in the morning when it comes. So that's the downside to being an early access guy. Is, you know what? If you are early access, you better get your butt out of bed. It's, hey, guess what? 3 o'clock in the morning. No rest for early access. You want to rest? Okay, we'll take that early access.
I was excited by it. Like, I was in bed and like I'd had trouble sleeping the last couple nights, and I saw Omar's like database tweet that a car got an update. And I was like, oh damn, that means I probably got one too. And then wait for it to install. But I was pumped because this is like the first one, like since I've been doing YouTube, that like the first one I could like post about immediately. You know?
Yeah, you'd be the first one. You were the first one.
Yeah, I was the first one on YouTube today.
I would say on this, because I saw your video and it looked like the parking was kind of weird. this part, like, other than the fact that it parked at a handicapped, which that's kind of interesting because it's been getting better at like avoiding.
I haven't had that in like months.
Yeah, so it parked at a handicap spot, it was very well laid out. But I will say that it parked well in the handicap spot.
Yeah.
And then when you selected a pin, this is about as good of a parking job as you can do. So
yeah,
these two, other than the fact that it did not read the handicap.
I mean, and the build was so good and so boring, like you didn't even think to look about the driver.
Like I said, I'm telling you my life story that, you know, basically will lead up to me being the squeegee guy at that intersection over there. One of these days you're going to come here, like they're going to have like, we're launching the 1 millionth cybercab, and we're doing it in Houston. We're gonna have David Moss come here. David's gonna drive by and go like, "Is that JC under the bridge?" Yeah, that's that guy. Remember he told us about his options on SpaceX. And I'll be out there with a little makeshift rocket. Come on, keep going.
You'll be an indentured servant on Mars.
That's right.
You get your money back.
All right, ready to go get some sushi?
Let's have some lunch.
All right.